The moment you have trained for has come. Students in your community and communities across our nation need your services. I believe in you more than I believe in myself. You are the rational members of one of the world's most elite systems ever created. Before we know it, America's youth will be graduating and moving on to achieve a higher standard of living. Whether you feel whole or not, it is your duty and responsibility to make sure that happens. Now, you are about to engage in a battle of numbers. Troops, let's put math in their face. What is an integer? Well, an integer is any positive whole number and its opposite. If you could think of a positive whole number, you just thought of an integer. If you could think of the opposite of that number, then you've also thought of an integer. For instance, 4. 4 is a positive whole number. It is also an integer. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. It is also an integer. 0 is also an integer. So again, the definition for an integer would be any positive whole number and its opposite, including the number 0. What I've done is I have drafted some troops, some soldiers, to help me teach you how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. These lessons will not include decimals and fractions because we're dealing with integers. You're welcome. No decimals or fractions to deal with. The first thing I want to start with is what we call a zero pair. If I have one red soldier, its worth or value is -1. If I have one green soldier, its value is +1. So anytime you see one red soldier, he's worth -1. Anytime you see a green soldier, he's worth +1. Now, that zero pair comes from one of each. If they are both the same value, and I have one positive and one negative, they cancel each other out. 0. So one positive soldier, one negative soldier make nothing. They make 0. We call that a zero pair. Our first battle that's taking place on a snow-covered field. There are 5 soldiers plus an additional 3 soldiers. They're all positive. So they're all on the same team. So if I take 5 soldiers and add 3 more positive soldiers, how many positive soldiers do I have? I have 8 positive soldiers. They're all on the same team or fighting for the same nation. So positive plus positive equals a positive. Second battle that's taking place. I have 2 positive soldiers plus I have 4 positive soldiers. If there are no negative soldiers, then there's no one to fight against. There's no way to eliminate or have 0 pairs. So in this case, again, all I do is combine the 2 positives on the left with the 4 positives on the right, since they're all on the same team, and I have +6, or my answer is 6. 2 plus 4 equals 6. In this battle, I've had 5 negative soldiers show up. Then an additional 3 negative soldiers showed up. I don't have any positive soldiers here. They're all negative soldiers, so they all are fighting on the same team. So there's going to be no friendly fire here. All of these soldiers are working together, not against each other. So we're going to do the same thing as we did with the positives. If we have 5 negatives and then we add 3 more negatives, how many negatives do we have all together? We have 8 negatives. So the answer is -8. There will be no battle here either. Since all the soldiers have the same sign, negative, and there are no positives, we're just going to combine how many negatives we have on the left with how many negatives we have on the right. They're all on the same team. So if we take the 8 negatives we have on the left plus the 8 negatives we have on the right, we have a total of 16 negatives. The answer is -16. In this example, if you notice, we have one side that's negative and the other side that's positive. So in this battle, someone is going to win. Whoever has the most soldiers will be the winner. Well, if you look at the positive side, there are obviously more positives than there are negatives. So we know the positives will win. So our answer is going to be positive. If you remember my zero pair that I talked about earlier, one negative soldier will cancel out one positive soldier and vice versa. So we will eliminate 2 pair of soldiers. That's 1 zero pair. That's 2 zero pairs. Now, what's left? 4 positive soldiers. The answer is +4. Okay, we have another battle setting up here. We've had 5 negative soldiers show up. And then we're adding 2 positive soldiers to this mix. So in this battle, you have a -5 plus +2. Who's going to win this battle? Well, it's going to be the negatives because there's more negatives than positives. And then you can ask yourself, well, how many more negatives are there than positives? Well, there's 2 positives, 5 negatives, so there's 3 more negatives, or -3 would be the answer to this problem. Or you could also use our zero pairs, where we cancel out 1 positive for 1 negative, 1 positive for 1 negative. Now once we remove zero pairs, what's left? -3. So we can say that -5 plus 2 equals -3. Okay, the next battle is underway. And at this battle, we had 4 positive soldiers show up. But then 10 negative soldiers showed up for this battle. Well, I think it's pretty obvious who's going to win. The negative soldiers are going to win this match. How many more negative soldiers are there than positive soldiers? Well, there's 10 negatives and 4 positives, so there's 6 more negatives. So we can say that 4 plus -10 equals -6. We can also use our zero pairs to eliminate. So 1 positive soldier for 1 negative soldier, 1 positive soldier for 1 negative soldier, and so on until we have no more zero pairs that we can create. The 4 positive soldiers plus the 10 negative soldiers equals -6. Now, in this battle, 3 positive soldiers showed up and 3 negatives. If we use our zero pairs, that's going to eliminate all 3. 3 positives and 3 negatives. That's 3 zero pairs. There's nothing left. This would be a draw. So the answer would be 0. And in war, actually, this will be a nice peace treaty. We could also look at this and say the same amount of positives plus the same amount of negatives will always equal 0. All right, another battle on a snow-covered frozen field. It's kind of like another Cold War. Okay, now, this looks like this might shape up to be a pretty good battle. We have 9 negative soldiers here and 12 positive soldiers. Well, whoever wins is the nation that has the most soldiers. In this case, the positives do. So the answer is going to be positive, no doubt. That's a group, isn't it? And in this case, we can start eliminating using zero pairs, or we could just figure out how many more positive soldiers we have than negative soldiers. Well, if I have 9 negatives and 12 positives, I have 3 more positive soldiers. So my answer would be positive 3. Or you could eliminate the 9 negatives and then eliminate 9 of the positives, and you have positive 3 remaining. Let's take a moment to summarize what's happened so far. So far, we have been adding integers that have the same sign. If you have one integer that's positive and you add it to another integer that's positive, your answer must be positive. If you have 2 negative integers being added together, the answer must be a negative answer. And the third concept I covered, or skill, was if you add together 2 numbers that have different signs, one's positive, one's negative, or vice versa, then the answer is going to be the one is going to have the same sign in it as the number that had the most negatives or the most positives. And kind of another way to look at that mathematically as a concept would be your answer is going to have the same sign in it as the number with the highest absolute value. So if your highest absolute value number was a negative, then the answer must be negative. If your number with the highest absolute value was positive, then your answer will be positive. If you don't remember what absolute value is, then you can consult my video on absolute value. So I guess to answer that question, what is war good for? Calculating integers.